Every morning I open my eyes at 5:30 regardless of the alarm clock. 42 years behind the wheel of a truck have not gone to waste. My biological clock is more reliable than a Swiss watch. Esther says it's senile insomnia. It's easier for her to put it down to age than to admit that her father is just used to getting up early. I'm 67, and by Hattiesburg standards, I'm a young old man. We have half the retirees here in their 80s, and many of them still mow their own lawns and drive cars. I could have kept driving for another 5 years, but the company decided it was time for me to retire. It's hard to compete with the young. They're faster and cheaper, though I doubt any of them can drive from Mississippi to Montana without a navigator. I know every gas station and every decent diner on every major highway in the country. My house is small but sturdy. My parents built it back in the 50s when Hattiesburg was growing. It's 2 stories with a porch and a backyard where you can barbecue. Neighbors say houses like this are worth a decent amount of money now because of the location and the lot. I don't care about its market value. To me, it's just the house where I grew up, where Loretta and I raised Esther, and where I brought my grandson Reed when he was a baby. Loretta died 5 years ago, lung cancer, although she never smoked. The doctors said it happens. I don't believe them. It's probably because of my 42 years of smoking. I quit right after her funeral, but sometimes I still wake up with the feeling of a pack of cigarettes in my shirt pocket. Since Loretta's death, I've established a simple routine. Wake up at 5:30, coffee, breakfast, walk to the store for a fresh newspaper. After lunch, a little housework or work in the garden. In the evening, TV or a book. It's not the most exciting life, but at my age you appreciate predictability and calm. This Sunday my routine was disrupted by Esther and her son. They come every 2 weeks, ostensibly to check on me, but I'm not fooled about their motives. Every visit ends with them asking for money or talking endlessly about how hard it is for me to be alone in such a big house. "Daddy, I brought you a homemade pie." Esther enters without knocking, as if it were her home. "Thank you, dear." I rise from my chair to kiss my daughter on the cheek. "Hi, Reed." My grandson, a 22-year-old student with a perpetually disgruntled expression, mumbles something in response and heads straight for the refrigerator. "Do you have any beer, Grandpa?" When I was your age, I'd already been working for 2 years. I couldn't resist. And I bought beer with my own money. "Oh, Dad, don't start," Esther sighed, setting the pie on the table. "Reed's just tired. He's had a tough semester." "That's the 4th hard semester in a row," I remark, but decide not to pursue the subject. "There's some cans in the garage. Just don't touch the blue one. It's non-alcoholic for me." Reed disappears in the direction of the garage, and Esther starts fussing in the kitchen, rearranging things and wiping down the countertops, even though I just washed everything this morning. "You're off your meds again?" She points to the untouched box of meds. "I don't need them. My blood pressure's fine." "Dr. Shields said you needed to—" "Shields would have said I needed flatulence pills if the drug companies were paying for them," I interrupt. Esther presses her lips together. She looks like her mother, but she's taken my temper, stubborn and a little hot-tempered. When she was young, it made her combative and determined, but now it has turned her into a perpetually disgruntled woman of 42, working as a receptionist in a dental clinic and always complaining about her ex-husband who left her with a small child. "By the way, Dad, I've been talking to Linda from Sunnyslope." I sigh heavily. Sunnyside is a local nursing home on the outskirts of town. Esther mentions it every other meeting. "They're holding an open house right now. Why don't we go check it out? Just for fun, no strings attached." "Why?" I sit back in my chair and pick up the newspaper, showing I'm not interested in the conversation. "You know, just in case. There are nurses, 3 meals a day, activities. I can eat 3 meals a day here too if I want. But you're always alone." Her voice becomes softer, almost pleading. "There will be socializing, new friends." "I have enough friends," I cut off, though it's not true. Most of my buddies are either dead or have moved to other cities with their kids. Reed comes back into the room with a can of beer. He plops down on the couch and turns on the TV without asking permission. "Grandpa, have you seen that new zombie show? It's the bomb." "No, it's not. It's about a post-apocalypse where all the old people turn into zombies and—" "Reed!" Esther yells at him. "Don't be rude." "What did I say?" Shrugs his shoulders. "By the way, Grandpa, remember you promised to help me with my new car." I put the newspaper aside. "I didn't promise to buy you a car. I said I could give you $1,000 if you got a job and put the rest together yourself." "But that's unrealistic," Reed exclaims. "Where am I going to find a job with that kind of paycheck? And without a car, I can't get a good job." "When I was your age, I worked 2 jobs to buy my first pickup truck." "Dad, times are different now," Esther intervenes. "Everything's more expensive and wages are low." "I don't think that's the problem." I look directly at my grandson. "Some people just don't want to work." Reed blushes and turns away from the TV. Esther sighs and starts slicing the pie she brought. "Let's not fight. Better tell me how your week went." Over tea, I listened to my daughter's stories about problems at work and my grandson's complaints about college professors. They don't ask how my week went. There's not much to tell, though. I fixed a leaky faucet, painted the backyard fence, and read a detective story I borrowed from the local library. "By the way, Dad," Esther says casually as I'm putting the cups away, "I've been talking to my neighbor Barbara. She says the houses on your street are really appreciating in value right now." "So?" "Well, just an FYI. A lot of older people are now selling their big houses and moving into apartments or nursing homes. It makes sense. Less to worry about. More free money." I don't answer, but I tense up inwardly. This is not the first hint of this kind. "Your house is probably worth 3 times what it was when you and Mom bought it," she continues. "You could sell it and spend some of the money on a comfortable place to live in Sunnyside." "And I suppose you'd like the rest of it now?" I ask, not hiding my sarcasm. "Daddy!" Esther looks offended. "How can you think that? I'm just looking out for your future." "My future is my home, and I'll live in it for as long as I can," I cut her off. "And let's get this over with." Reed rolls his eyes and mutters something about stubborn old men. Esther gives him a warning glance, but then turns back to me with that fake smile I hate so much. "No one's talking about moving in immediately, Dad. Just think about it. It's hard for you to take care of the house by yourself." "I'm doing fine," I say, even though I know that's not entirely true. It's really become harder for me to take care of the house lately. My back hurts after working in the garden, and climbing up the ladder to fix something on the roof is getting a little scary. But I'd rather die than admit it to Esther. After tea, they are about to leave. Reed asks if I could give him some money before the scholarship. I pull $50 out of my wallet, even though I know it's a waste. He'll spend it on drinks with his friends or his girlfriend. "Thanks, Grandpa." He kisses my cheek carelessly. "Next time I'll show you that zombie show." "I'll look forward to it," I reply dryly. Esther hugs me goodbye and whispers, "Please think about Sunnyside, for my sake." I nod, making no promises. As their car pulls away from the house, I feel both relieved and homesick at the same time. They are my only family, but every visit from them makes me feel like a burden to be taken care of. In the evening, I sit on the veranda watching the neighborhood kids playing outside. Once upon a time, Reed used to ride his bicycle down this street just as carefree. Back then, he still looked at me with admiration, not barely concealed impatience. The next day, I spot Barbara, the neighbor with whom Esther was supposedly chatting. Barbara is digging in her garden, and I decide to approach her. "Good morning, Barbara." "Oh, Pierce, it's a lovely day, isn't it?" "Yes, it is. Tell me, have you spoken to my daughter lately?" "Esther?" Barbara looks puzzled. "Esther? No, I don't recall. I saw her car yesterday, but we didn't speak." I thank my neighbor and head home, feeling anger building up inside. Esther lied to me. She just made up the conversation with Barbara to manipulate me. That evening, I call my old friend Lloyd, who we once worked together as truckers. "Hey, Pierce, how's the old geezer doing?" He greets me cheerfully. "I've been better. Listen, are your kids trying to put you in a nursing home?" Lloyd laughs, but then realizes I'm not kidding. "Shit, seriously? Esther's pressuring you?" Every damn time she comes over. Sunny side this, sunny side that. And yesterday she lied to me about talking to my neighbor about the value of the house. She and her grandson are just trying to get your house, Lloyd says bluntly. "You know the real estate market is booming in Hattiesburg." "I know," I sigh. "But I didn't think my own daughter—" "Listen, man," Lloyd's voice turns serious. "You gotta be careful. I've heard stories of children declaring their parents incapacitated in order to gain control of their assets." "Esther wouldn't go for that," I say. "But deep down, I'm not so sure anymore." "I hope so. But be on the lookout. And if you need help or just to talk, call me anytime." After I talk to Lloyd, I sit on the veranda for a long time, watching the dusk fade. The house that was a fortress for me, a place where I felt safe, now seems like an apple of discord. I know Esther and Reed are just waiting to get their hands on it. To them, I'm no longer a father and grandfather, just an obstacle to inheritance. The next week, going through the mail, I find an envelope with a Sunny Slope booklet and a note from Esther. "Dad, just think about it. It's so beautiful and peaceful there. Love, E." I crumple the booklet and toss it in the trash. But then, out of curiosity, I pull it out and look through it. Smiling old men playing checkers, neat rooms with single beds, a common dining room, nurses in white coats. Everything looks sterile and impersonal. It's not a home. It's a place to wait to die. Friday night, the phone rings. It's Reed. "Grandpa, can I come by tomorrow? There's something I need to discuss." "Sure," I answer, though I suspect the conversation will be about money. In the morning, Reed arrives alone, without Esther. This is unusual. Usually my daughter controls all contact with my grandson. "Hi, Grandpa." He hugs me awkwardly. "How's it going?" "I'm fine. Do you want tea?" "Coffee, if you have it." I make us some coffee and we sit down in the kitchen. Reed looks a little nervous, twiddling his cup in his hands. "Grandpa, I've been thinking. You know I'm a business student, right?" "Yeah, Reed. You've said that many times." "Well, we're taking a real estate investing class right now, and I was thinking—" He pauses, as if to collect his thoughts. "Your house. It's pretty old, isn't it?" "It's 70 years old, like I'm almost there," I answer dryly. "Exactly. And it needs constant maintenance, repairs. And that's hard at your age, isn't it?" I don't answer, just look at my grandson. He continues, gaining momentum. "So, I calculated. If you sold the house now at current market prices, you could get enough money to live comfortably in Sunnyside for the rest of your life, and still have enough left over for, other things." "Like what other things?" I ask, even though I already know the answer. Reed blushes, but quickly pulls himself together. "Well, maybe help my grandson with his education, or a down payment on a car." "Oh, that's it," I nod, pretending to understand. "So you're suggesting I sell the house, move into a nursing home, and give you the rest of the money?" "Not so harsh, Grandpa," Reed says. "I'm just offering a rational solution. You'll be better off at Sunnyside, and the money from the sale of the house can be used wisely. I look at my grandson and I don't see him as the kid I once taught to ride a bike, but as a greedy young man just waiting to get my money." "You know, Reed, I'll think about your offer," I say calmly. His face lights up with hope. "Really? That would be great, Grandpa. Mom said you were stubborn, but I knew you were a reasonable man." After my grandson leaves, I sit in the silence of my house, realizing that Esther and Reed are really just waiting to take possession of my house. To them, I've already become a burden that needs to be put into a nursing home as soon as possible. I look around the kitchen, the living room, every corner of the house where I've spent my whole life. This is where I grew up, where I brought my wife, where we raised our daughter. I'm not going to let them take this away from me and use it for their own gain. I'm deciding it's time to take action. They want me to sell the house. That's fine. But they have no idea what the consequences will be for them. Tuesday morning, I noticed that the back door needs repair. The hinges were rusted and creaking so loud you could wake up the whole neighborhood. When I was younger, I would have just replaced them in half an hour, but now every such action turns into an entire event. First, you have to find the tools, which I have, as is my custom, laid out so that I always know where what lies, and then spend half an hour looking for them. Then I have to go to the hardware store to get new hinges, because I didn't have any spare ones. At the hardware store, they already know me by sight. I come here a couple times a week. I'm out of nails, I need a new doorknob, or I just want to chat with the salespeople. The young guy behind the register, Vic, is always happy to see me. He is studying to be an engineer and listens with interest to my stories about how we used to fix trucks on the road with just a set of wrenches and duct tape. "Good morning, Mr. Doherty." Vic greets me. "What are we fixing today?" "The back door squeaks like an unlubricated wagon wheel," I say. "We need new hinges." "Hinges in the third aisle on the left on the top shelf." He points in the direction. "Let me help you choose." We walk over to the rack of door hardware and Vic shows me several hinge options. I choose the simple but sturdy stainless steel ones. "Good choice," Vic says approvingly. "These will last a long time." "Longer than I will," I chuckle. "Don't say that, Mr. Doherty. You'll outlive us all." I stop at the grocery store on the way home. Milk, bread, a few canned goods. I don't need much. The cashier, a full-figured middle-aged woman named Dolores, asks about my business as usual. "How's the grandson? Still in college?" she asks as she goes through my purchases. "Yes, still in college," I answer dryly. "My nephew is in the second year of his freshman year, too," Dolores laughs. "Young people are in no hurry to grow up." I nod, not wanting to get into it. Reed is a pain in the ass, and I don't want to discuss him with strangers. Back home, I see an unfamiliar car in the driveway, a shiny black sedan, too expensive for our neighborhood. Esther's car is standing next to it. I feel a wave of irritation rising inside. There she goes again, unannounced, and with someone. As I enter the house, I hear voices coming from the living room. Esther is having a lively conversation with a woman I don't know. I walk inside and freeze on the threshold. The woman, dressed in a strict business suit, is writing something down in a notebook, and Esther shows her the room with a broad gesture. "You could tear down this wall here and combine the space with the kitchen. Open floor plans are trending right now." "What's going on here?" I ask, feeling the blood rush to my face. Esther flinches and turns around. "Dad, you're back already. We thought you were still at the store." "Obviously." My voice is as cold as ice. I repeat the question. "What's going on here?" The woman in the suit rises and extends her hand to me. "Hello, Mr. Doherty. I'm Silene Paxton, realtor with New Homes. Your daughter has invited me to appraise—" "My house isn't for sale," I interrupt, ignoring the outstretched hand. "It never will be." Silene casts an uncertain glance at Esther, who looks embarrassed but quickly pulls herself together. "Dad, we just wanted to know the approximate cost, just in case." "Just in case of what?" I can feel my anger boiling up inside me. "In case I die, so you know how much you'll get?" "Don't be silly," Esther exclaims. "We've been thinking about your future. You said yourself that it's hard for you to take care of the house." "I never said that," I growl. "You're the one who keeps saying I should move into a nursing home." Kaylin looks increasingly uncomfortable. "I'll come back another time when you're ready," I say. "Don't bother," I cut her off. "This house is not for sale, ever." The realtor quickly gathers her things and heads for the exit. Esther follows her, apologizing and explaining something. I stay in the living room trying to deal with the rage that is literally seething inside me. A few minutes later, Esther returns. Her face is flaming with anger. You ruined everything! I've been waiting a month to meet Silene. She's the best realtor in Hattiesburg. A month? I'm asking you again. So you've been planning to sell my house for a long time. Not sell it, appraise it, Esther shouts, to make you realize you're sitting on a gold mine. Your house is worth 3 times what it was worth 10 years ago. So what? I'm not gonna sell it. Why not? She splashes her hands. You're 67 years old, living alone in a 4-bedroom house. It's unsustainable. Irrational? I can feel my voice rising. It's more rational if I rot in a nursing home and you get the money from selling my house. What does money have to do with it? Esther exclaims, but I can see her eyes running. She always does that when she's lying. I care about you. You'll be better off at Sunnyside. Better for who? For me or for you? At that moment, the front door slams and Reed walks into the living room. He looks annoyed. What's with all the yelling? You can hear you outside. Your mother brought a realtor to appraise my house, I tell my grandson, without my knowledge or permission. Reed looks from me to Esther and back again. So? Mom did the right thing. It's about time you moved to a place where you'd be taken care of. Oh, so now you're going there too? I'm crossing my arms over my chest. Of course you're both anxious to get rid of me and get a house. Nobody wants to get rid of you, Esther exclaims. We want you to be comfortable and safe. In a nursing home, I clarify, where I'll sit in a wheelchair and watch TV for the rest of my life. Don't be so dramatic, Dad. Sunnyside is a great place. It's got activities, socializing, and cramped rooms the size of closets, I interrupt. No, thanks. I'll stay in my house. Reed snorts. Grandpa, you're acting like a child. You need to be realistic. Realistic? I turn to my grandson. Okay, let's be realistic. What do you really need the money from the sale of the house for? For your new car? Or maybe to pay for your never-ending education? Reed blushes. What's that got to do with it? We're thinking about your well-being. Really? I step closer to my grandson. Then why did you come to me last week and ask if I wanted to sell the house and help you with the down payment? Esther shifts a surprised look to her son. Reed? You went to see Grandpa behind my back? Reed looks embarrassed, but quickly pulls himself together. Yes, I did. So, Grandpa's sitting on a lot of money and I can't even buy a car. You can't buy a car because you don't work, I retort. When I was your age, I was already supporting a family. Things were different when you were your age, Reed yells. Now you can't get a job without a college degree, and I can't even get a part-time job without a car. So get a job somewhere close to home, or ride a bike. Bike? Reed's looking at me like I'm crazy. Are you kidding me? No, I'm offering you what people did before cars were invented. Worked and made money. Esther steps in, trying to lighten the mood. Dad, Reed, let's calm down. We're all a little on edge. I'm perfectly calm, I reply. And my decision is final. The house is not for sale. But why are you being so stubborn? Esther exclaims. You'll be better off at Sunnyside. I'll be better off in my own house, I say firmly. The house my parents built, where I raised you, where Loretta and I have lived all our lives. But Grandma's been gone for 5 years, Esther says softly. And you're clinging to the past. I'm not clinging to the past. I live in the present in a place that I love and that belongs to me. Reed can't stand it. Grandpa, you're just selfish. You don't care about us. Mom works like hell. I can't finish college without a car. And you sit in your huge house and think only of yourself. Reed, Esther yells at him, but he can't stop. No, Mom, stop being so hard on him. He's just a selfish old man who doesn't want to help his own family. I look at my grandson, feeling a chill go through me. Is that what you think of your grandfather? That I'm selfish because I don't want to give you everything I have? Yes, Reed yells, because you don't need it anymore. You're an old man with a few years left, And we've got years to live. Reed! Esther exclaims in horror. Apologize to Grandpa right now, but Reed can't stop himself. His face contorted with anger. He shouts the words that must have been on his tongue for years. No, I won't apologize. He should be thinking about his family. He should be thinking about us, not his stupid house. You'll be in a nursing home, Grandpa, whether you like it or not. There's a heavy silence in the room. I look at my grandson, and I think I'm seeing him for the first time. This young man with the face contorted with rage is not the little boy I taught to ride a bicycle. He is a stranger, a greedy man who sees me as an obstacle to his inheritance. Get out of my house, I say quietly. Both of them. Esther looks shocked. Dad, that's not what Reed meant. He's just upset. Get out, I yell, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. Get out of here. Reed grabs his jacket and runs out of the house, slamming the door. Esther stands there, not knowing what to do. Daddy, please, let's talk calmly. We have nothing to talk about, I reply. You brought a realtor into my house without my permission. You lied to me about talking to my neighbor. You spent months trying to manipulate me into selling my house and moving to Sunnyside. And now your son has shown his true colors. That's not what he meant, Esther repeats. He just had a temper. No, Esther. He said exactly what he thinks he said, and I suspect you think the same. It's not true, she exclaims, but I see the same lie in her eyes as before. Go away, I say again. I want to be alone. Esther hesitates, but then heads for the door. I'll call you tomorrow when you've cooled down. After they leave, I sit in the silence of the living room for a long time. Reed's words ring in my ears. You're going to be in a nursing home, Grandpa, whether you want it or not. So that's how they see my future. As a helpless old man to be sent to live out his days at Sunnyside to take over his property. I stand up and walk slowly around the house, touching the walls, looking at the pictures on the mantelpiece. Here's me and Loretta on our wedding day. Here's little Esther, taking her first steps. Here's all of us together on a picnic by the lake, happy times that can never come back. That evening, I call Lloyd. They brought a realtor, I say without preamble, right into my house, without asking. Damn it, Lloyd whistles. This is serious, Pierce. And then Reed threw a tantrum and told me straight up that I'd be in a nursing home whether I wanted to be or not. That son of a bitch, Lloyd said, not hiding his outrage. What are you going to do? I stay silent, thinking about the situation. A plan is starting to form in my head. I think I'm going to sell the house, I finally say. What? Lloyd sounds shocked. But you just said, I'm going to sell the house, I say again. But not in the way they expect. What are you talking about? They think I'll sell the house and move to Sunnyside and they'll get the money from the sale. But I have other plans. Lloyd is silent for a while, then laughs. Pierce Doherty, you old sly one. You're up to something. Maybe, I answer, but I need to think it over first. After I talk to Lloyd, I sit on the veranda watching the neighbors. The family across the street is having a barbecue, the kids running around the lawn, the adults laughing. Once upon a time, Loretta and little Esther and I were a happy family like this. What changed? When did my daughter turn into a greedy woman willing to send her father to a nursing home for an inheritance? I lie awake most nights thinking about my plan. In the morning, having made up my mind, I call a real estate agency, but not the one where Silene Paxton works. I choose a small firm on the other side of town. Dream Home Agency, how can I help you? A woman's voice answers. I'd like to sell my house, I say, as quickly and quietly as possible. Of course, sir. We can send an agent for an appraisal today. What's your address? I dictate the address and make an appointment for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I call Lloyd. I've done it, I tell him. The realtor will be here at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Are you sure you want to sell the house? I can hear the concern in Lloyd's voice. It's your fortress, your memories. The house is just walls, I answer. though I'm clenching inside at the words. I'll take the memories with me. Where are you going to move to? I haven't decided yet, I said evasively, but definitely not to Sunnyside. At 2 o'clock, the realtor arrives, a young man named Aiden Lowe. He inspects the house, takes notes, photographs the rooms. Great house, Mr. Doherty, he says. Good location, solid foundation, spacious rooms. It could use some cosmetic repairs, but overall it's in good condition. How much do you think it's worth? I ask. Aiden says a figure that makes me whistle. Really? That much? Real estate in Hattiesburg is going up in price right now, the realtor nods. Especially sturdy houses like this in good neighborhoods. When would you like to put it on the market? As soon as possible, I answer. And one more condition. No advertising in the local papers or on the bulletin boards. I don't want the whole town to know I'm selling the house. Aiden looks a little puzzled but nods. Okay, we can only use online platforms and our customer base. But can I ask why the secrecy? Family circumstances, I answer evasively. I don't want some relatives to find out about the sale early. The realtor nods understandingly. Apparently, such situations are not uncommon in his practice. I understand. We'll be as discreet as possible. After Aiden leaves, I sit down at the kitchen table and start making a list of things to do. Find a buyer, sign the papers, decide where to move. But most importantly, all of this needs to be done so that Esther and Reed don't find out about the sale until after the deed is finalized. Reed's words spin in my head. You're going to be in a nursing home, Grandpa, whether you want it or not. Well, I have a surprise for him. I will indeed sell the house, but not to go to Sunnyslope and give the money to my grandson for a car. I have other plans. In the evening, Esther calls. I stare at the phone for a long time, wondering if I should answer. Finally, I decide to pick up the phone. Daddy? Her voice sounds guilty. Are you okay? I'm fine, I answer dryly. Dad, I wanted to apologize for last night. Reed shouldn't have said that. He just had a temper. You already said that. I was wrong, too. I shouldn't have brought Silene here without your permission. No, you shouldn't have. I agree. This is my house, Esther. It's mine. I know, Dad, she sighs. I'm just really worried about you. It's hard for you to be alone in a house this big. I can handle it, I cut her off, and I'm going to solve my problems on my own without your help. Okay, Dad, Esther sounds resigned. I get it. Reed and I will stop by on Sunday, okay? He wants to apologize in person. We'll see, I reply, not wanting to make any promises. After talking to my daughter, I think about my plan again. I have a few days until Sunday. During that time, I need to act quickly and decisively. I don't know if Esther's apology is sincere, but I'm sure of one thing. She and Reed won't back down from their goal. They'll pressure me, manipulate me, make sure I end up in Sunnyside and they get the money from the sale of the house. Well, I'll teach them a lesson they don't expect. I'll sell the house, but on my terms. And when they find out what I did with the money, it will be a real shock to them. I smile, imagining their faces. Yes, the decision has been made. I'm selling the house, but not to move into a nursing home. I have very different plans for the rest of my life. Wednesday morning, I got a call from Aiden Lowe with the great news that there was a potential buyer for my house. I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Really? I asked, feeling my heart start to race. Who is it? An elderly gentleman, Mr. Octavius Price. He's a retired carpenter looking for a house for his family. He has 5 grandchildren and they come to visit often. He needs a spacious house with a lot. The name sounded vaguely familiar. As I thought about it, I remembered Octavius Price had once made kitchen cabinets for Loretta and me. The work had been excellent and he had charged a reasonable price. We kept in touch for a long time, occasionally meeting in town, but I haven't seen him in recent years. I know Octavius, I said to Aiden. He's a good man. All the better. The realtor was happy. He'd like to see the house today if you don't mind. Of course it's okay. Let him come anytime he wants. We agreed on 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That gave me plenty of time to clean up and get the house ready for showing. Even though I had already decided to sell it, I still wanted it to make a good impression. I spent the morning tidying up, dusting the shelves, vacuuming the carpets, washing the windows. As I did my usual chores, I couldn't help but think that this was the last time I'd ever do them. Soon this house would belong to someone else. The thought made me a little sad, but I chased the sentimentality away. The decision had been made, and I wasn't going to back down. At 3 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Aidan Lowe stood on the doorstep, and next to him stood Octavius Price, a tall, thin black man with gray hair and kind eyes. He looked older than I remembered him, but his handshake was as firm as ever. "Mr. Doherty," he smiled broadly. "I didn't know it was your house that was for sale. It's been a long time." "Yes, Octavius. Too long." I shook his hand. "Come in. Make yourself at home." We took Octavius around the house, showing him the rooms, talking about the layout. His eyes lit up brighter and brighter with each new room. "It's a great house," he said, when we finished looking around and sat down in the kitchen for coffee. "Sturdy, solid. My Beatrice will love this kitchen." "How is she?" I asked. "I haven't seen your wife in a while." "Fine, thank you," Octavius nodded. "Still baking the best blueberry muffins in town and bossing the family around." We laughed, reminiscing about old times. Aidan waited patiently until we had enough to talk, and then he got down to business. "So, Mr. Price, are you interested in buying the house?" "Absolutely," Octavius nodded. "It's exactly what we were looking for. It's spacious, well-planned, in a quiet neighborhood. It's perfect for our family gatherings." "Great," Aidan pulled out the papers. "Then let's talk price." We moved on to discussing finances. Aidan named the amount we'd discussed yesterday, but I suddenly realized I didn't want to charge Octavius the full price. The man had always been honest with me, and I knew he would treat the house I'd lived in all my life well. "You know what?" I said. "I have a special price for Mr. Price." I quoted 20% less than market value. Aidan looked at me in surprise, and Octavius looked at me in disbelief. "Mr. Doherty, that's too generous." Octavius shook his head. "I can't accept such an offer. Your house is worth more." "Perhaps," I agreed. "But it's more important to me that it gets into good hands, and I know you'll take good care of it." We haggled some more, but finally we agreed on a price that was below market but still fair enough. Aidan didn't look happy. His commission had been reduced, but he did the paperwork professionally. "I can put down a deposit right now," Octavius said, pulling out his checkbook, "and the rest as soon as the bank approves the mortgage." "Take your time," I said. "We have time." "Actually," Aidan interjected, "Mr. Doherty would like to close the deal as soon as possible. Isn't that right?" I nodded. "Yes, the sooner the better." "Then I'll talk to the bank tomorrow," Octavius promised. "I have a good credit history, so there shouldn't be any problems." When Aidan and Octavius left, I was alone in the quiet house. It was only now that it really hit me. I was selling the house, the place where I grew up, where I lived with Loretta, where I raised Esther. A wave of nostalgia came over me, but I quickly pulled myself together. There was no point in clinging to the past. It was time to move on. The next few days passed in a flurry of activity. I began sorting through my belongings, deciding what to take with me and what to leave behind. Photos, memorable knickknacks, favorite books, I packed them all neatly into boxes. The rest could either be sold or given to a charity store. At the same time, I was looking for a trailer. The idea of traveling around the country on wheels didn't come to me right away. At first, I thought of just renting an apartment in another city. But then I remembered how Loretta and I had always dreamed of traveling, which we never realized. Now I had a chance to make up for lost time. I found the right one at a car dealership on the outskirts of Hattiesburg. A compact but comfortable trailer with a kitchen, bedroom, and small living room. It was used but in excellent condition, and the owner agreed to a reasonable price. I put down a deposit and agreed to pick it up in a week when the house deal was finalized. On Friday, Aiden called with good news. The bank approved Mr. Price's mortgage. We can close the deal on Monday. Great, I replied. The sooner the better. Have you found a place to move yet? He asked. Yes, it's all set, I said evasively, not wanting to go into details. Esther and Reed were coming over on Sunday. I decided not to tell them about the sale. Let the deal be finalized first, and then I'd confront them. It would be easier that way. They came in the afternoon, both with guilty faces. Esther had brought apple pie, my favorite, and Reed looked unaccustomedly modest. Dad, Esther began as we sat down at the table, we came to apologize. We were wrong. I stared at them in silence, waiting for them to continue. Grandpa, I shouldn't have said that, Reed lowered his eyes. It was rude and disrespectful. Yes, it was, I agreed. But you said what you thought, and there's some value in that. No, grandfather, that's not what I think, Reed exclaimed. I was just angry. You know how it is, saying things you don't mean. Do I? I raised an eyebrow. And I thought you were expressing what you've both been thinking for a long time, that it's time for me to go to a nursing home and for you to get my house. Esther looked genuinely upset. Dad, that's not true. Yes, I was talking about Sunnyside, but only because I'm worried about you. It's hard for you to be alone in such a big house. I'm doing fine, I said, and I'm going to manage for as long as I can. Of course, Dad, Esther tried to smile. We won't bring it up again, I promise. The rest of the visit passed in a tense atmosphere. We talked about the weather, about Esther's work, about Reed's studies, but avoided any mention of home or the future. When they left, I was relieved. Now all that was left was to wait until Monday and finalize the deal. On Monday, everything went smoothly. Octavius and I met at Aiden's office, signed all the necessary paperwork, and the house officially changed ownership. Octavius was happy and promised to fix the porch first thing. Mr. Doherty, he said, shaking my hand, I'll take care of this house as if it were my own child. It will be in good hands. I know, Octavius, I smiled. Otherwise I would not have sold it to you. We agreed that I would have the house vacated by the end of the week. That should be enough time to pack the rest of my things and finalize the formalities of the trailer. On Tuesday, I went to the bank and opened a new account into which I transferred the money from the sale of the house. I put some of the money aside for the purchase of the trailer and current expenses and decided to keep the rest for emergencies. On Wednesday, I called Lloyd and told him my plans. A trailer? He was surprised. Really, Pierce? You're going to live in a trailer? Not just live, but travel, I clarified. I'm going to go all over the country, see places I've never been. Gosh, that's bold, Lloyd whistled. What about Esther and Reed? Do they know yet? Not yet. I'll tell them on Friday when I'm ready to leave. They'll be furious, Lloyd warned me. I know. I couldn't help but chuckle. And I admit I'm looking forward to it a little. On Thursday, I picked up the trailer from the dealership and parked it in the driveway. The neighbors looked at the new acquisition with curiosity, but no one dared to ask me directly what I was up to. I spent the day moving boxes of stuff into the trailer and setting it up for life. Friday morning, I got a call from Esther. Daddy, what's going on? Her voice sounded worried. Barbara said you were loading things into some trailer. Yes, that's right, I replied calmly. I'm moving. You're moving? Esther gasped in surprise. Where? Why didn't you say anything? Why don't you come over and talk to me in person? I suggested it. Bring Reed along too. We'll be there in an hour, she said, and hung up. An hour later, Esther's car pulled into the driveway. She and Reed jumped out of it and walked briskly toward me. I sat on the porch, sipping lemonade and enjoying the warm spring day. Dad, what's going on? Esther stopped in front of me with her hands at her sides. "What's with the trailer? Where are you going?" "Have a seat." I pointed to the chairs next to me. "It's going to be a long conversation." They sat down, looking at me with concern and bewilderment. "I sold the house," I said bluntly. "The deal closed on Monday. The new owner moves in on Saturday." Esther and Reed stared at me with their mouths hanging open. "What?" Esther exhaled. "You sold the house, but how? When?" "Last week I contacted a real estate agency and quickly found a buyer," I explained. "Octavius Price. Maybe you remember him. He made our kitchen cabinets when you were a teenager." "That old carpenter?" Esther looked stunned. "But why? Why didn't you tell us?" "After our last conversation, I decided you were right," I shrugged. "The house is too big for me alone. It's time to move on." But, Esther couldn't find the words. "You said you'd never sell the house." "I changed my mind," I said simply. Reed, who had been silent up to that point, suddenly perked up. "So you're going to move to Sunnyside after all?" I could hear the hope in his voice. "No, Reed," I shook my head. "I'm not moving to a nursing home." "Where are you going then?" Esther looked around the yard. "What's that trailer?" "That's my new home." I pointed to the trailer. "I'm going to travel the country." "What?" Esther jumped to her feet. "You're kidding me. You can't live in a trailer. You're 67 years old." 67 is not 107, I pointed out. "I'm perfectly capable of running a trailer and taking care of myself." "But this is crazy." Esther shook her hands. "What if you get sick? What if the trailer breaks down? What will you do alone in the middle of nowhere?" "The same thing I've been doing all my life," I replied calmly. "Solve problems as they come." Reed was silent, but his face was getting darker and darker. What about the money from the sale of the house?" he finally asked. "Would it even cover the cost of this tin can?" "The trailer was only worth a fraction of what I got for the house," I answered. "I spent the rest on a trip around the world." "What?" Esther and Reed exclaimed at the same time. "I bought the Around the World in 80 Days tour," I lied nonchalantly. "I've always wanted to see the world. Loretta wanted to go on a trip like that, but we never got around to it. Now I'm going to make that dream come true for both of us." "You spent all your money on the trip?" Reed couldn't believe his ears. "Almost all of it," I nodded. "The tour starts in a month. Until then, I'll be traveling around the States in a trailer." Esther sank back in her chair, pale as a sheet. "You can't do that, Dad. It's irresponsible." "Why?" I raised my eyebrows. "It's my money, my house, my life. I have the right to use it however I want." "But you didn't even consult us," Esther exclaimed. "We're your family." "The family that wanted to put me in a nursing home against my will," I reminded her. "The family that brought a realtor to appraise my house without my knowledge. The family that saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to my inheritance." "That's not true." Esther looked offended. "We just wanted what was best for you." "No, Esther," I shook my head. "You wanted what was best for you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to finish packing. I'm leaving tomorrow." Reed, who had been sitting there with his fists clenched, suddenly jumped up and rushed toward me. "Grandpa, don't do this." Tears glistened in his eyes. "Please, don't sell the house." I looked at my grandson, who a week ago was screaming that he would send me to a nursing home, and now he was sobbing, begging me not to sell the house. "It's too late, Reed," I said firmly. "The house is already sold. The papers have been signed. The money's been transferred." "But we can fix this." He grabbed my arm. "We can rescind the deal. We can pay a penalty." "Anything." "Why?" I asked. "The house was mine, and I've decided to sell it. I don't need it anymore." But we need it." Reed didn't hide his despair. "It's our family home. It's where all our memories are." "Which you were willing to trade for money," I said. "Sending me to Sunnyside." Esther walked over and put her arm around her son's shoulders. "Come on, Reed. Dad's made up his mind. There's nothing we can do." "No, Mom." Reed broke out of her embrace. "Grandpa, please don't sell the house. I didn't mean to say those things. I was just angry. Please." I looked at my sobbing grandson and felt a strange mixture of emotions: pity, bitterness, disappointment, and, somewhere deep down, satisfaction that my plan had worked. He wanted to get rid of me, calling me a burden, and now he's begging me not to sell the house. "I'm sorry, Reed, but I've made up my mind," I said firmly. "The house is sold, the money's spent. I'm going on a trip tomorrow." "But you can't just leave," Esther exclaimed. "What about your health, your medication? Who will take care of you?" "I'll take care of myself as I've done for the last 5 years since Loretta died," I answered. "And don't worry about my health. I'm perfectly fine for my age." "That's crazy," Esther shook her head. "Absolute madness." "Maybe," I agreed, "but it's my choice." Reed knelt down next to my chair, his face wet with tears. "Grandfather, please don't do this. Don't sell the house, I beg you." But I was adamant. "It's too late, Reed. The house is sold, and I spent the money on the trip around the world that Loretta always dreamed of. In fact, I bought a small trailer and planned to travel around the country." Esther and Reed looked at me with disbelief and despair. They hadn't expected this turn of events. They thought they could control my life, decide for me. But I showed them that I was still capable of making my own decisions, even if they seemed crazy. And looking at their stunned faces, I realized I'd made the right choice. Saturday morning was surprisingly clear. I woke up early as usual, but for the first time in a long time I felt a strange excitement. Today was the beginning of a new phase of my life. I gathered the last of my things, checked to make sure everything was packed in the trailer, and sat down at the kitchen table to write a note to Esther and Reed. After last night's scandal, they left in tears and fury. Esther yelled that I was out of my mind, and Reed begged me not to sell the house. But it was too late. The deal was closed, the money was received, and Octavius and his family were due to arrive at noon to accept the keys to their new home. I took a piece of paper and began to write, "Esther and Reed, by the time you read this letter, I will be long gone from Hattiesburg. Do not try to find me or dispute the sale of the house. It is useless. I sold it willingly and in my right mind. The first stop on my journey is Blue Pine Campground near Lake Pontchartrain. The coordinates are 30 degrees, 12 minutes north latitude, and 90 degrees, 42 minutes west longitude. If you want to contact me, you can find me there within a week. Pierce." I folded the note and put it in a prominent place in the living room. Then I stepped out onto the veranda and took one last look around the house that had been my refuge for so many years. Strangely, I didn't feel the pang of nostalgia I had expected. Instead, there was a sense of lightness, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders. At 11 in the morning, Octavius drove up with his wife Beatrice and 2 grandchildren. They looked excited and happy. "Mr. Doherty," Octavius shook my hand. "We are so happy." The children couldn't sleep all night with excitement. Beatrice, a full woman with kind eyes, hugged me. "Thank you for this beautiful house, Mr. Doherty. We will take good care of it." Octavius's grandchildren, boys about 8 or 10 years old, were already scurrying around the yard, exploring their new possessions. I smiled as I watched them. The house would once again be filled with children's voices and laughter. "Everything ready to move in?" I asked. "Yes, the furniture truck will be here in an hour," Octavius nodded. "And you? Are you ready to go?" "Completely," I pointed to the trailer. "All I have to do is say goodbye to the house and give you the keys." We went inside and I gave the new owners a final tour of the house, talking about the peculiarities of the house, where the faucet sometimes leaks, how to set the thermostat properly, what floorboards creak at night. "Here, in the basement, I left a box of tools and spare parts," I showed him. "Might come in handy. And in the attic there are some old things I didn't take away. You can throw it away or keep it as you like." Beatrice listened attentively, sometimes making notes in a small notebook. It was obvious that she was a practical and thrifty woman. "What about the garden tools?" she asked. "You had such a beautiful garden." "Everything is in the shed," I answered. "Lawnmower, shovels, rakes, watering hoses. You're welcome to use it." After the tour, we went back to the kitchen for tea. Octavius's grandchildren had already settled in and were now running around the rooms, choosing where their bedroom would be. "I almost forgot." Octavius took an envelope out of his pocket. "Here is a check for the remaining amount." The bank approved it. I took the envelope and put it in the inside pocket of my jacket. "Thank you. The house is now officially yours." Beatrice poured tea into cups and put a plate of homemade cookies on the table. "Isn't your daughter coming to say goodbye?" she asked. I shook my head. "We're not exactly on good terms right now. She doesn't approve of my decision." "I understand," Beatrice nodded. "It's always hard for children to accept that their parents can live their own lives." At that moment, Esther's car stopped in the driveway. I saw her through the kitchen window and sighed. A confrontation was inevitable. "I think she's here after all," I said, standing up. "Excuse me. I need to talk to my daughter." I went out onto the veranda. Esther and Reed were standing by the car, looking at the trailer and Octavius's car with obvious bewilderment. "Daddy!" Esther came toward me with a quick stride. "What's going on? Who are these people?" "The new owners of the house," I answered calmly. "Octavius Price and his family. I told you yesterday." But you didn't tell me they were moving in today." Esther looked shocked. "We thought we had time." "Time for what?" I crossed my arms over my chest. "The deal's closed, Esther. The house is no longer mine." Reed, who had been standing by the car before, came over to us. "Grandpa, we've been to the lawyer," he said. "He said we could contest the sale." "On what grounds?" I raised an eyebrow. "Incapacity," Reed blurted out. "The lawyer said we could prove that you didn't realize the consequences of your actions because of age and stress." I laughed, though I was seething with anger inside. "Are you serious? You want to declare me incompetent just because I sold my own house?" "Dad, you don't understand," Esther intervened. "Your decision was rash and ill-considered. You sold your house for nothing and now you're going to live in a trailer. That's a clear sign of—" "A sign of what?" I interrupted. "That I've decided to live for myself and not the way you want me to." At that moment, Octavius and Beatrice came out onto the veranda. They looked worried. "Is everything all right, Mr. Doherty?" Octavius asked. "Everything is fine," I replied. "This is my daughter Esther and grandson Reed. They came to say goodbye." "We didn't come to say goodbye," Esther exclaimed. "We came to stop this madness." She turned to Octavius. "Look, Mr. Price, right? My father was in no condition to make such a serious decision. He was acting under the influence of stress and—" "That's not true," Octavius interrupted calmly. "Mr. Doherty was perfectly normal when we discussed the deal. He bargained like a professional and clearly explained his terms. The realtor can attest to the same," I added, "and the doctor I saw last week. I have a health certificate, including a mental health certificate. That was a lie. I didn't have any certificate. But Esther and Reed didn't know that, and I could see their confidence shaken." "Still, this deal isn't fair," Esther continued stubbornly. "The house is worth so much more than—" "The price was fair," Octavius intervened. "I insisted on the market value, but Mr. Doherty offered a discount as we had known each other for many years. It was his voluntary decision." Beatrice walked over to Esther and put her hand gently on her shoulder. "I understand your anxiety, my dear, but believe me, we will care for this house like a treasure. And if you ever want to visit the place where you grew up, our doors will always be open to you." Esther looked like she was about to cry. Reed stood beside her, his fists clenched, his face red with anger. "It's not fair," he muttered. "Can't we do anything?" No, you can't, I said firmly. And the sooner you accept it, the better for all of us. I turned to Octavius and handed him a bunch of keys. Here, these are all the keys to the house, garage, and barn. The house is yours now. Take care of it. I will. Octavius shook my hand firmly. Good luck with your travels, Mr. Doherty. Send postcards. Beatrice hugged me. Be careful on the roads, and come visit when you're in our neighborhood. I nodded, feeling a sudden lump in my throat. These people I barely knew showed more care and understanding than my own family. I turned to Esther and Reed. There's a note in the living room with the coordinates from my first stop. If you ever want to get in touch, you know where to find me. Esther looked at me with a mixture of anger and despair. Dad, please come to your senses. You can't just leave. I can, I smiled. And I'm leaving. Goodbye. I got into the trailer, started the engine, and slowly pulled onto the road without looking back. In the rearview mirror, I saw Esther and Reed standing in the driveway, staring after me, and Octavius and Beatrice waving goodbye. A strange feeling came over me as I pulled onto the highway, a mixture of sadness, fear, and boundless freedom. I turned on the radio, and the tune of Willie Nelson's old song, On the Road Again, filled the cabin. How symbolic it was. My plan was simple. First, drive south to Lake Pontchartrain, where the Blue Pine campground was located. From there, along the Gulf Coast, through Louisiana and Texas, then west to the Grand Canyon and Utah's national parks. I had never seen these places, though I had driven past many times while behind the wheel of a truck, always in a hurry to deliver a load. By late afternoon, I reached the Blue Pine campground. It was a cozy place with several dozen trailer and tent sites scattered among the tall pines. Lake Pontchartrain glistened in the setting sun, and I felt the tension of the last few days begin to let go. I parked the trailer in my assigned lot and stepped out to stretch my legs. The air was filled with the smell of pine and salt water. A few people were cooking dinner over an open fire, and kids were running between the trees playing catch-up. "Hello, neighbor!" A man from a neighboring lot called out to me. "Just arrived?" "Yeah, just in from Hattiesburg," I replied. "I'm Norman," he extended his hand. "And this is my wife, Gladys." A woman setting up a picnic table waved at me. "Pierce," I introduced myself, shaking Norman's hand. "Pleased to meet you." "First time on the road?" Norman asked, looking at my trailer appraisingly. "Yeah, I guess you could say I'm new." "Gladys and I have been traveling around the country for 3 years now," Norman said proudly. "We sold the house in Chicago when I retired, and we've been traveling ever since." "What's it like?" I asked with interest. "Best decision of our lives," Norman smiled broadly. "Freedom, new places, new people every day. It can be hard sometimes, especially when the trailer breaks down or the weather turns bad, but it's worth it." Gladys walked over to us, wiping her hands on her apron. "Is Norman bragging about our adventures yet?" She smiled warmly. "Don't believe everything he says. Half the time he grumbles that he misses his chair and the TV." "That's not true," Norman protested, but his eyes were laughing. "Okay, maybe sometimes I miss my chair, but only sometimes." We laughed, and Gladys invited me to dinner. "We're having chili and cornbread tonight, enough for 3. "Thanks, but I don't want to impose," I began. "What imposition?" Norman shrugged it off. "The first rule of the road is to share what you have. Today we treat you. Tomorrow you'll treat someone else. That's how we live." I agreed, and a half hour later I was sitting at the picnic table with them, enjoying delicious chili and listening to stories of their travels. Norman and Gladys had traveled to almost every state, staying for a week or a month in places they liked. They showed pictures on their tablet. Norman at the Great Lakes, Gladys in front of sequoias in California, the two of them in Yellowstone Park. "What brings you to the road, Pierce?" Gladys asked as we moved on to coffee and apple pie. I told them my story briefly. The death of my wife, the conflict with my daughter and grandson, how I decided to sell the house and start a new life. They wanted to send you to a nursing home? Norman was indignant. At your age? You're still young. I'm 67, I clarified. Kindergarten, Norman snorted. I'm 73 and Gladys is 71, and we're just starting out in life. The family sometimes doesn't realize that we're not ready to sit in a rocking chair and knit socks, Gladys added. They think life ends at 60, but it's just beginning, no obligations, no responsibility for others, just you and your dreams. Their words resonated with me. That's what I felt when I made the decision to leave. Do you keep in touch with your family? I asked. Of course, Gladys nodded. We have 2 children and 5 grandchildren. We call them every week, and sometimes we see them when we drive by. They're used to our lifestyle. They were against it at first, Norman added, especially the daughter. She kept saying we should be around the grandchildren helping raise them, but then she realized we deserved our freedom. Now they even come to our campgrounds on weekends. It's an adventure for the kids. After dinner, Norman helped me properly hook up the trailer for electricity and water and showed me how to set up the gas stove and heater. Tomorrow, I'll show you how to drain and clean the waste tank, he promised. Not the most pleasant part of living in a trailer, but necessary. When I was finally alone in my trailer, I felt a strange peacefulness. The space was cramped, but cozy. I unfolded the couch, turning it into a bed, and lay down, looking out the small window overhead. I could see the stars through the pine branches, bright and close as they never are in the city. I thought of Esther and Reed, of their shock and anger when they found out the house had been sold. Perhaps I had been cruel. Perhaps I should have warned them beforehand, given them time to get used to the idea. But then they would have done everything they could to thwart me, and I couldn't let them control my life again. The smell of coffee and bacon woke me up in the morning. Gladys was cooking breakfast outside, and the aromas wafted in even through the closed windows of the trailer. I quickly washed my face, got dressed, and went outside. Good morning, traveler, Gladys greeted me. How did you sleep in your new place? Surprisingly well, I admitted. I didn't expect it to be so comfortable. It's only the first night, she winked. Wait until it rains or gets cold. Then you'll know what you signed up for. Coffee? I'd love some. The 3 of us had breakfast, and Norman, as promised, showed me the ins and outs of trailer maintenance. Then we walked to the lake where he introduced me to the other travelers. There were several other retirees at the campground living a nomadic lifestyle. Eleanor and Patrick, a married couple from Oregon, had been traveling for 5 years. Fred, a former history teacher from Texas, sold his house after his wife died and bought a trailer to visit all the historical sites he told his students about. Marge, an energetic woman in her 60s, traveled alone, visiting children and grandchildren scattered across the country. They were all friendly, sharing tips and stories. By lunchtime, we had a communal picnic where everyone brought something. Norman and Gladys brought pasta salad. Eleanor and Patrick brought fried chicken. Fred brought homemade bread. Marge brought fruit salad. I felt a little bad about coming empty-handed, but everyone assured me that next time it would be my turn to treat. That's how we live on the road, Marge explained. Today, you share with someone. Tomorrow, someone will share with you. We're all family here. Family. The word echoed in me with a strange pain. My real family right now is probably still furious with me for leaving. I wonder if they found the note. Would they come here? When I returned to my trailer in the evening, I was in for a surprise. There was a small package and a note on the picnic table. A gift to the newcomer from the old-timers of the road. Welcome to the family, Norman and Gladys. The roll-up turned out to contain a book, a guide to America's national parks, and a small compass. I sat on the steps of the trailer, leafing through the book and thinking about what an unexpected turn my life had taken. Until a week ago, I was just a lonely old man in a big house that my family wanted to send to a nursing home. And today, I am a free man starting a new adventure surrounded by new friends who accepted me without question or condition. In that moment, I felt the weight of the last few years finally lift off my shoulders. The loneliness after Loretta's death, the strained relationship with Esther, the disappointment with Reed. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly free and happy. I didn't know what lay ahead. Perhaps I would soon tire of the nomadic life and want to settle down again somewhere. Maybe Esther and Reed would come here after all, and we'd talk. Maybe we could even work things out, but on new terms, where I wouldn't be the object of their manipulations and plans. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered now was the warm evening by the lake, the stars above my head, and the feeling of endless possibilities that the road opened up. It's amazing how fast time flies when every day brings something new. It has now been a year since I left Hattiesburg and began my nomadic life. In those 12 months, I have traveled over 30,000 miles, visited 18 states, and seen places I never knew existed before. Now I was staying at a small campground near Denver. The Colorado mountains loom majestically on the horizon, and the air is so clean it's like breathing for the first time in your life. My trailer, which I affectionately call Lori in honor of Loretta, doesn't look as new as it did a year ago. It has scratches and scuffs, the marks of our adventures together. But it's still just as cozy inside, and I've long since gotten used to its compact space. The morning begins as usual. Coffee on the small stove, a light breakfast, checking email on the tablet I bought in Arizona on Norman's advice. You can't be a nomad in the 21st century without internet access, he told me at the time. And he was right. The tablet became my window to the world, a way to stay in touch with new friends and occasionally with Esther. Yes, Esther did find me. 3 weeks after I left, she arrived at the Blue Pine campground, but I had already moved on to the Gulf Coast. The campground host gave her my email address, which I kept just in case. And soon I received my first message from my daughter, short, full of anger and accusations. I replied calmly, telling her where I was and that I was fine. Since then, we have corresponded from time to time, at first formal and strained, then a little warmer. Today, I got another letter from her. I open it, preparing for another round of reproaches. Hi, Daddy. How are you? I hope you're doing well wherever you are right now. We're doing the same old thing. Work, home, the usual stuff. Reed finally got his degree and he's looking for a job. Doesn't want to move out of Hattiesburg even though I tell him there are more opportunities in the big city. By the way, saw Octavius at the supermarket yesterday. He told me he had the roof and back porch completely repaired. Said if you're ever driving by, be sure to stop by for a visit. He and Beatrice think of you often. I drive by the house sometimes and, it's strange to see other people there. Sometimes I still get mad at you for what you did. But then I look at your pictures from your travels and think that maybe you did the right thing. I don't know. It's complicated. Write me where you are now. Esther. It's the warmest letter I've gotten all year. No direct accusations, even some semblance of understanding. Progress. I reply right away, talking about Colorado, the mountains, the new friends I've met here. I attach a few photos. I've learned to take good pictures with my phone. I ask about Reed, even though I know he doesn't talk to me. There hasn't been a line or a call from him all year. Apparently he never forgave me for selling the house. After breakfast, I go out for a short walk. The campground is located in a picturesque valley surrounded by wooded hills. A path leads to a stream where I sometimes sit, watching the water flow and reflecting on life. This year has taught me a lot. I have become more patient, learned to appreciate the simple joys. A sunset over a canyon, a starry sky in the desert, a conversation with a stranger who might become a friend. Norman and Gladys became my constant companions during the first months of the trip. We explored the Gulf Coast together, traveling through Texas and New Mexico. Then our paths diverged. They headed north to Yellowstone, while I decided to stay in Arizona, mesmerized by the beauty of the Grand Canyon. But we still keep in touch, exchanging messages and occasionally meeting up when our routes intersect. There was also a rough patch in my journey. In the winter, stuck in a snowstorm in Utah, I became seriously ill. High fever, weakness, breathing problems. The campground owner, noticing I hadn't left the trailer for a second day, came to check on me and called an ambulance. I was taken to the hospital with pneumonia. 2 weeks in a hospital room, IVs, antibiotics. I even considered calling Esther, but then decided not to bother her. What could she do from Hattiesburg? Just to make sure I was right about the dangers of my lifestyle. Fortunately, I recovered quickly. When I was discharged, it turned out that my camping neighbors had been watching the trailer the whole time, and the owner had arranged for me not to be evicted while I was in the hospital. That kind of care from people I barely knew touched me deeply. Maybe that's the essence of a traveling community. We're all a little bit vagabonds, but we also care about each other. After recovering, I decided to move where it was warmer and spent the rest of the winter in Southern California. The Pacific Ocean, the palm trees, the endless beaches. It was so different from the Hattiesburg I was used to that sometimes it felt like I was on another planet. In the small coastal town of Encinitas, I met Doris, a widow my age who also lived in a trailer and traveled the country. An affection developed between us that could have grown into something more, but at the end of February, she left for the east to visit her daughter who was due to have a baby. We exchanged contacts, but both of us realized we probably wouldn't see each other again. Such is life on the road, meeting and parting, with no commitments or promises. In the spring, I traveled north through Nevada to Oregon, then turned east to the Rocky Mountains. And now I'm in Colorado, enjoying the cool mountain air and preparing for the next leg of the journey. Back from my walk, I notice a blinking light on my tablet, a new email. But it's not from Esther. The sender is Morrison, Green and Associates, a law firm. Weird. Who would want to contact me through a lawyer? Maybe Esther decided to sue for the sale of the house after all. But it had been a year. The statute of limitations for such lawsuits should have expired. I opened the letter with some trepidation. Dear Mr. Dougherty, our law firm represents the late Meister Lloyd Baker. We regret to inform you that Mr. Baker passed away 2 weeks ago from a heart attack. According to his last will, you are the heir to a 5-acre tract of land in Park County, Colorado, including a small hunting cabin that belonged to him. You should contact our Denver office at the telephone number listed below to make arrangements for your inheritance. Sincerely, Michael Green, attorney. I reread the letter several times, unable to believe my eyes. Lloyd is dead. My old friend with whom we traveled the roads of America, with whom we shared all the hardships and joys of being a trucker. I knew he had heart problems. He mentioned it in our last phone conversation a few months ago. But still, the news stunned me. And he left me a piece of land in the mountains. I didn't even know Lloyd had real estate in Colorado. He never mentioned it. It must have been his secret hideaway, a place where he could take a break from the road and be alone with nature. The next day, I drive to Denver, to the law firm's office. Michael Green, a solid middle-aged man, meets me in a spacious office lined with diplomas and certificates. Mr. Dougherty, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. He shakes my hand firmly. Lloyd's told me a lot about you. You two knew each other, I wonder? I was his attorney for over 15 years, Green nods. And, dare I say it, a friend. His death is a great loss. I nod, unable to speak. Green looks at me understandingly and continues, Lloyd changed his will a year ago, shortly after you began your journey. He said you were the only one who would appreciate his little piece of paradise. Green pulls out a folder of papers and spreads them out in front of me. The property is about 2 hours from here, near the town of Fairplay. 5 acres of woods on the side of a mountain, a small creek, a hunting cabin. Nothing fancy, but the place is beautiful and secluded. Lloyd bought it 20 years ago, and used it as a refuge from the hustle and bustle of the city. He shows me pictures: a wooden cabin among the pines, a mountain stream, a view of the valley from high above. The place really does look like paradise. All the taxes are paid a year in advance, Green continues. The condition of the cabin. Well, let's just say it needs attention. Lloyd hasn't been there in the last couple years because of his health. But the foundation's solid, the roof doesn't leak. With your skills, I think you'll have it up and running in no time. I flip through the paperwork, still in disbelief at my good fortune. Land in the Colorado mountains, a home of my own, a place to stop and catch my breath after a year of nomadic life. There's something else. Green pulls out an envelope. Lloyd left this for you. I open the envelope. Inside is a note written in familiar, sprawling handwriting. Pierce, you old tramp. If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer alive. Don't be sad for too long. I've lived a good life and have no regrets. I leave you my secret corner in the mountains. No one but you will appreciate it. It's a place where time stops, where you can hear the trees grow and talk to the stars. I don't know if the road has already tired you out, but if so, it's a great place to drop anchor. If not, you can always use it as a base for new journeys. Good luck to you, friend. Live life to the fullest. Lloyd. I fold the note, feeling a lump in my throat. Typical Lloyd. Even in death, he found a way to take care of his friend. A week later, I arrive at my allotment for the first time. The road off the highway is narrow and winding, the last few miles a dirt road. But when I finally get there, I realize it's worth it. The cabin sits in a small clearing among the pines, on the side of a mountain. From the porch, the view of the valley and the mountain peaks in the distance is stunning. The creek that Green was referring to runs 100 yards away from the house, its gurgling sounds providing a constant, peaceful backdrop. The cabin itself is in need of repair. Chipped paint on the walls, creaky floorboards, outdated plumbing. But the foundation is solid, just as Green said it would be. 2 rooms, a tiny kitchen, a glassed-in porch. To me, accustomed to the cramped quarters of a trailer, it feels like a palace. I spend 3 days on the property, making a list of the materials and tools I need for the renovation. I decide that I'll come back here in a month and spend the entire summer fixing up the house, and then we'll see. Back at the campground, I write to Esther, telling her about the unexpected inheritance and my plans. Her reply comes 2 days later, short, but without the usual irritation. Dad, glad you got a permanent place. I hope you like it in Colorado. It's still the same here. Reed found a job at a computer firm. When I mentioned your inheritance, he just shrugged. I think he's still hurting. Give him some time. Esther. I don't answer right away, mulling over her words. Give Reed time? For what? For him to forgive me for disposing of my life and my possessions as I see fit? Or for not giving him the house and money he was counting on? During this year, I've thought a lot about my relationship with my daughter and grandson. I love them. They are my blood, my family. But love shouldn't turn into shackles. They wanted to control my life, to decide for me what I need and what I don't need, all under the guise of caring. Esther seems to be starting to realize that I was entitled to make my own choices. Maybe someday we can rebuild a normal relationship. But Reed, he saw me as an obstacle to his inheritance. To him, I was not a grandfather but a source of money and, in the long run, a house he considered his by birthright. Will I ever forgive him? Maybe. Time heals, as they say. But right now, a year after our breakup, I have no particular desire to reconcile. I'm fine the way I am. Free. In a month, as planned, I return to my plot in the mountains, loading the trailer with tools and building materials. I spend the summer working, fixing the roof, replacing rotten boards on the porch, updating the plumbing, painting the walls. The work is hard, especially for someone my age, but it is satisfying. Every nail hammered, every detail installed is a part of my new house, my future. By the end of August, the house is transformed. It is still simple and unassuming, but now it is sturdy, warm, and ready for winter. I decide to stay here, at least until spring. The trailer stands under the shed I built specifically for it. I'm not ready to part with it. Maybe when spring comes, I'll be drawn to the road again, or maybe I'll stay here forever. Who knows? In September, I get an unexpected letter from Reed, the first one all year. Grandpa, Mom tells me you've settled down in Colorado. Good for you, I guess. I don't know why I'm writing. Probably just wanted to say I'm still mad at you for what you did, but at the same time, I'm starting to understand. A little bit. I'd probably do the same thing if I were you. I got a job at an IT company. It's good pay, good growth prospects. I bought a used car, not a new one like I wanted, but a decent one. All in all, I'm doing okay. I hope you are too. Reed. It's not an apology, but it's a start. I answer briefly, talking about the house, the renovations, the plans for the winter. I don't mention the past. I don't bring up old wounds. If Reed wants a relationship, let him take the next step. Fall in the Colorado mountains is a spectacular sight. The forests burst with gold and purple. The air is clear and crisp as a fresh apple. I sit on my porch for hours, watching the colors of nature change, the low sun playing on the mountainsides, the birds gathering in flocks before they fly south. Sometimes I think about Hattiesburg, the house that has been mine for so many years. Do I miss it? Not particularly. There are a lot of memories there, but I'm not a person who clings to the past. I prefer to live in the present and think about the future. And the future, it's here, in these mountains, in this little house that's mine now, or on the road that is always waiting for me if I decide to hit the road again. Or maybe both, a base in the mountains and occasional trips across the country. The main thing is that I now decide for myself how to live my life. No pressure, no manipulation, no guilt. Free. In the evening, I sit by the fireplace, which I repaired myself, and write a letter to Esther. I talk about the fall in the mountains, about how I'm preparing for winter, about my new friends in the nearest town. I don't mention the past. I don't ask if she'll ever come to visit. If she wants to, she'll write herself. When I finish the letter, I go out on the porch. It's a clear, starry night. In the mountains, the stars seem closer, brighter, as if you could reach them with your hand. I look at the constellations, trying to remember their names from the astronomy book I recently bought. And in that moment, a sense of deep peace fills me. I made the right choice a year ago when I decided to sell the house and move away. It was a difficult, risky move, but it led me here, to a new life, to freedom, to peace. My grandson yelled at me, "You're going to be in a nursing home." He wanted to get rid of me, calling me a burden, but I decided to take revenge, not out of spite, but for self-preservation. And this revenge turned out to be the best decision of my life. Now I have my own house in the mountains, friends, freedom to choose my own path. And most importantly, I no longer feel obliged to live the way others want me to. True freedom is living without manipulation and demands, even if they come from the people closest to you. I take a deep breath of mountain air and smile at the stars. Life goes on, and it is beautiful.